All right, so we can go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is Monday, April 27th, 2020. The time is 6:04 p.m. This is the Finance Committee for the Town of Halifax, and we are being recorded by Zoom, through which we are also holding our meeting. On tonight's agenda, budgets, wage and personnel recommendations, reserve fund transfers, acceptance of minutes, correspondence, public participation, calendar, and as may arise. So let's start off with budgets, because I know we've got several department heads and other members of the public who are here to participate and to listen as we talk about our FY 2021 budget. So just in case there's any updates, Sandy and or Charlie, do you want to brief us on anything that's happened since last week? Or I know we've gotten some correspondence about the school budgets and what other towns are doing.
Sandy, why don't you go first? You've been doing more of the work.
Okay, so I sent you out the updated FinCom budget. Mm-hmm. On the very first page of the spreadsheet, I explained the assumptions that we made. So we decreased the state aid from the FY 21. We reduced unrestricted aid by 35%. We decreased motor vehicle excise tax revenue by 59,675, which is about 16% of FY 19's actions. We decreased penalty and interest by 25,000, which is about 13% of the FY 19 actuals. We decreased license and permits by 37,500, which is about 28% of the original estimate. So the FY 19 actuals were very high. So we weren't going as high as that on the estimated figure anyways. These estimates were made by looking back at the 2008-2009 recession, historical data. The Halifax elementary school budget was cut. Originally, I cut it by 2% of the FY 20 wage lines, which was $82,095, and then 2/3 of the increase for the transportation line. That's what was voted last week. What Charlie suggested, and I'll let him go into more detail, was to bring it back to FY 20 rates and to get information from the schools on what they need for steps and lanes. All the expense lines have been reduced to FY 20 rates or lower, except for dispatch and veterans benefits. So if you look at your expense spreadsheet, I've made a few more suggestions on lines that could come down. Mm-hmm. And that will be up to you. I'll put explanations in next to them. That will be up to you guys to vote. And they are reflected in Charlie's working 2021 budget that he sent to you.
Okay.
That's where we stand.
Thank you.
If you look at the synopsis page, one more thing, if the synopsis page does bring us, if you look at the full levy, we have about 166,000, but when you hold aside the 300,000 under the levy limit, we still need a little more. If you do the additional decreases and the decrease to the school, then that would get us back in the black. So that's all on the synopsis page. I'll turn it over to Charlie.
And I sent my version out back on Thursday, mostly to sort of the orientation being that we start off with the FY 20 budget rather than the FY 21 submissions. The idea was, can we fit the FY20 budget within the FY21 revenue envelope? And we can. So, there, obviously there are a few adjustments that Sandy has made, but the idea was get that done first and then see whether we can do step increases for the people who are supposed to get them either in union contracts or under wage and personnel, school, non-school. So when I worked with Sandy on that and added everything in, and I not in the sense of saying the schools should be level funded, but simply starting with that number and leaving it that way for right now until we get more information from Silver Lake and the elementary school as to the breakout of the increases in their budgets based on step increases, based on individual contracts, based on any legal obligations they have, other expenses, and then finally any new union contracts to say, can we in fact do this? Can we get step increases for everybody, school, non-school, union, non-union, for both school districts and for the town? And that what we have right now, based on bringing the school budgets down to where they were in fiscal 20, would be something on the order of about $90,000. That would then have to go to the schools, and we need information from them. Let's see what they're coming back with for steps and lanes. Can we fit the steps and lanes within the 90,000? If we can't, we need to then start looking probably at a step freeze, in that we won't have enough money for step increases for fiscal 21. We'd have to go back and say, working with Sandy, working with the school systems, to say, if we did a step freeze so that in essence, whatever anybody got on June 30th is what they're getting for fiscal 21, how much money would that save? Would that fit, can we get back to a balanced budget under that assumption? I did hear from Kingston, where Carl, earlier today. I think I passed, I passed that along to all of you. And then Sandy asked if we were following Kingston, what that would mean for us. And that would mean a dramatic difference for us. Kingston is looking for much heavier cuts from Silver Lake than we are at this point. It would be an effective decrease in our assessment from fiscal 20 to fiscal 21. I'm not advocating that one way or the other, but it would certainly make a substantial difference in balancing our budget. We would be able to do step increases for everybody at the elementary school, at union, non-union for non-school. We'd be able to put some money back in where we agree probably it needs to be things like elections and Medicare and such, that we know we're going to spend that money. We really should be budgeting for it. And then probably leave some money on the table, simply because I don't want to be put in a position of making commitments for FY21 that we may not be able to make for FY22, depending on how long this goes. But the idea was, I've been, in terms of corresponding with you and corresponding with the school systems, was to say, here's the order of things. Get FY20 inside the FY21 envelope, then look at any obligations that we have, like insurance, retirement and such. Then look at the step increases, see whether we can fit in there. And we're at that point right now before looking at anything else. And if you went with my scenario, which is simply one of any number of scenarios, I'm sure.
Charlie.
Yeah.
I did read today in some of the Facebook forums that they're talking about redoing the municipal growth factor for this year, which would change the minimum contributions for each one of the member towns in the district. So we might not end up with the same assessment number if they redo the minimum contribution numbers. So just a word of caution on that.
Okay, well, which would mean subtly changing if the minimum.
If Kingston's minimum contribution drops because their growth factor drops, then that's going to spread the cost more to Halifax and Plimpton.
Well, it also depends on what those growth factors are for all three communities. in the sense that we don't know right now who has a higher growth factor and how much it might be adjusted downward. You're right. Anything that changes that redistributes how the assessment's going to be done.
Yeah, and it was just a big increase for Kingston. That's why I'm cautioning.
Okay, so just to get everyone on the same page, we at last week's meeting we went through all of the expense lines and any basically non-wage lines, and our bright line was to try to vote everything down to FY 2020 levels. A lot of things had already been submitted at that level as level funded, so those actually had been voted like weeks and weeks ago. We went back through, revoted lines down to FY 2020 levels, save wage lines because we weren't sure what the cost would be for steps and lanes and longevity and such. And we also reached out to all the department heads, and we thanked them for getting back to us about what things that if we are to put back, if we are able to make accommodations to increase particular expense lines, what are high priorities that need to be done that are either mandated, that have to do with, external factors, or that are just extreme needs in those expense lines that we need to take into account. We also took into account anything sort of legal obligations, although that's a difficult bright line to set, obviously, because a lot of things with legal obligations, we try to do some of the, I guess, the easier ones, but even amongst ourselves, we still had discussions about whether or not something was considered legal or contractually mandated, et cetera. So obviously those we're going to have to revisit for discussion. I'm looking at the spreadsheet now. So Sandy, could I trouble you to just walk us through some of the notations on the updated, on the expenditures that you sent? Because I see that you've got, and I thank you for plugging in last week's votes.
Right.
So let me so we have large case R's previously approved, lower cases approved on 4/20, which was last week's, and then we have hold lines, and those ones we need to talk about. And you said for some of them you have the column that's called suggested decrease. Is that, so that's over last week's numbers?
Yes, because it's mainly the wage lines that I went through. I went through the wages and refigured them. Went through my master payroll sheet.
Okay.
Took out, as I had told you that I was looking at, was some departments had put in extra hours to cover weekend or Friday holidays where the employee didn't work on those holidays. So I went and I adjusted the wage lines to what I felt, and I'm willing to go over any of this information with the department heads if they have questions. But what I felt was what their lines should be with the steps included.
Okay. Thank you for that. So two things that, if we scroll to the bottom under fixed costs, I know there's two areas that again were in that the arena of externally mandated costs, and that's line 206 Medicare town share and line 207 insurance. Both of those are highlighted on Sandy's sheet in green as ones that we have to return to. So line 206 Medicare town share, we have the FY20 voted amount as $128,520. FY21 we recommended last week to level fund, but were there any, I know it's highlighted in green, is something we have to come back to. Are there any changes to that one potentially that we have to be aware of?
What we've seen the last 2 years of we're going to need additional money in it this year, and we needed additional money in the Medicare line last year. what happens is we've had a lot of extra detail being done. We had all the trees cut on Elm Street. There were police officers that were hired. Anytime we have extra work like that, that we hadn't originally figured on, even though it's paid by an external, we have to pay Medicare, the town share Medicare towards it.
Okay.
So it did end up being higher. I'm not sure what I would recommend for that line, but I think and again, next we may not have as much of the extra work that would drive that up. So that one is something that needs to be considered. I'd be happier to put another couple of thousand in that. If I could get it up to 130, that would make me happier. But again, it's one of those things that I'm not sure at the end of the year. That's when you find out where you are. So.
Okay. So maybe we'll look at line 207 first then. So line 207 insurance, the FY20 voted amount was 250,000. The FY21 requested amount was 281,000. And you have a suggested decrease of 23,500 as a notation.
Right, so that's other insurance, and that is Charlie's line, so I'll let him speak to that.
Okay.
So on the other insurance, that's the general liability and property insurance. My request came in two portions. One is that there's about 3% increase in our premiums with the current coverage that we have. So I'll need, instead of 250, I need 257.5. The other increases were, and I've had discussions with you all about this during the winter, pre-COVID obviously, were in two places. One was that the property insurance right now really doesn't fully encompass the total value of the elementary school. If aliens took it away or a tornado went through and just destroyed all of it, we'd have to do a rebuild, and the current property value on that in terms of the coverage isn't enough to cover the entire amount. I think we have about 30 on the coverage, and my guess, really rough back of the envelope, is we're talking more about 50 to replace it total, architecture and engineering and construction, all that jazz. So right now we're not fully covered, and I want to increase our coverage, which means an increase in premiums, which means I need more money in the budget to do that. The other part is what's called 111F. Workers' comp covers all employees except for firefighters and police officers. Under Massachusetts general laws, they have a separate policy, or actually separate statute, that covers them for injury on the job. Then the various cities and towns buy insurance policies, usually called 111F or something like that, police accident, fire accident policies, so that there's coverage both for medical expenses, but also for wage loss. Right now, the wage levels for those policies are somewhere, haven't been increased probably in 15 or 20 years. And I wanted to bring them up to what we're paying for police officers and firefighters now. To do that, as you might guess, requires more of a premium cost. And again, that's why I asked for the additional money. The downside is if we don't increase, obviously on the school, we've got a problem. On the 111F coverage, the worst case scenario is that, at least on the wages, that if someone's earning, let's say, $1,600 a week on average, and we only have coverage for $1,200 a week, the town eats the difference, in the sense of we're going to have to pay the difference between what the coverage is for 111F and what the actual employee would be getting. Because under 111F, fire and police officers get 100% of what their normal pay is, rather than workers' comp, which is usually something on the order of 2/3. So that's why you saw increases requested. Balancing everything, I'm not sure where it falls on a priority on the list versus some of the other expenses that I think we're going to be obligated to pay.
I know you mentioned there's a notation here for a $23,500 reduction, which would be a new requested amount is $257,500 for line 207 insurance. And I know we had a question from Chief Shabs concerning Medicare costs. Okay, so we're still, that's about the Medicare line. So we'll keep working on the Medicare line. But for right now, on line 207 insurance. So sorry, Charlie, I didn't mean to cut you off. 257,500.
Right, just for the premium increase in the sense of we're going to keep the same coverage, no change in the coverage, but I still need 3% more to cover the premiums for next year.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion, and we can open up discussion after we have a motion in a second. I'll entertain a motion for a recommendation on line 207 insurance, the amount of $257,500.
Just for clarification, line 207 is item 154 insurance. And
Oh,
I
I'm sorry.
make recommendation for 257.5.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Okay, any discussion on this one or any questions from anyone? Okay. All in favor of the recommendation of 257,500 on line 154 insurance?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So we'll still wait then on line 153 Medicare town share to get a little bit more information on that, but we do have a tentative recommendation there. So scrolling up, line 142 music rights. This is a small difference over FY20, but given the bright line that we set at our meeting, we were pushing everything back to FY 2020 levels. I believe that the new request amount was $365 to maintain music rights.
I think it's a $9 increase. That's what the right schedule says.
That's right. It was 366.
366.
And what this again is that if we use recorded music at various events, as an example, the dances that the Youth and Recreation Department holds, you have to have the right, you have to buy the right to, in fact, use recorded music at those events. The money then supposedly goes to the recording artists and such, but I'm not going to go into the convolutions for that. But if we don't have something like this, then we don't get to use music like that.
All right, so we can open up discussion if we have a motion to recommend line 142 music rights in the amount of $366. Do we have a motion to recommend?
Yeah, sorry, I moved on mute. I make a motion to recommend.
Okay.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion or questions from anyone? I mean, I know personally it's an increase, but at $9, it seems like a lot of different entities across the town use those music rights. So, any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, so line 130 Youth and Rec Director, we have a notation from you, Sandy, to reduce to FY20 level.
That's right. Which would be 17,739.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion on line 130 Youth and Rec Director in the amount of 17,739.
Moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, line 128, youth and rec wages. We have a requested amount of $17,799. And we have a note from you here saying the decrease is due to the minimum wage increase.
That's right.
Okay,
Because
and that,
the minimum wage, it's gone up, but it's also going up again next January.
right, okay. Okay, so we can open up discussion if we have a motion and a second to recommend line 128 youth and rec wages in the amount of $17,799.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. So again, this is one of those, it's being externally mandated in terms of the incremental increase in minimum wage in the state. Does anyone have any questions or comments on that line?
Melinda,
Yep.
if we don't have summer league, that number will probably go down for actual expenditures.
True.
Summerly, are you talking about the sports programs? Or are you talking about the camps?
The camps, right, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, if the summer league stuff, I mean,
The camps are mainly paid from the revolving fund pays for the camps, the vacation camps, that type of thing. This is the account they use throughout the year.
so Sandy, this is like, for instance, keeping the gym open on Saturdays, and there's an attendant or something like that as an example, right?
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, this line could still go down as well if we're not, depending on the restrictions that we have in place at the time. Okay, so any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
The next one we had a hold on was, all right, we have a line 120. Oh, so we're up into the library section now under culture and recreation. So we've been working our way from the bottom of the spreadsheet up. So now we're under culture and recreation. The next three lines 125, 126, and 127 all have to do with the library. And I know we received information from Jean, and we appreciate that, about library accreditation. And the changes that the state is proposing given the economic downturn. So I will pull that meeting up, but the email up. But I don't know if Jean or Sandy want to kind of brief everybody else, all the other participants, about the changes or the kind of need that the library has to maintain its network status and what that would mean for this upcoming fiscal year.
Well, Sandy, you can, pipe in with anything that I miss. But I did take that session with the Mass Board. It was a question and answer session. It was pretty informative. And I sent you all the information needed if we end up having to apply for a waiver. Sandy did my wages over again because I had a couple of new employees coming in. So with the wages and my salary and keeping the expense down to an FY20 level, the amount that I would need to keep the library certified ends up being 4,000. Now I lost it, but like $4,321. I know that that's a lot of money, and I sent you the disproportionate cut. What they want to be clear about is that what they really look at is a more than a 5% cut over the whole town municipal's budget. So I don't really understand how that, how that works going. Like, I know we just did increases in insurance, and I didn't really quite understand what was going on with the school. But if you look at the disproportionate cut worksheet, the school is included in that. So if the school doesn't get the same cut as the library gets, we might have a trouble with getting that waiver.
Okay, thank you,
Oh,
Jean. I have the
yep.
amount.
And the other thing, you know, as we're looking at all of this, it's important to remember that this money to keep the library certified just has to be appropriated. You don't have to spend it. So I think that that's important to know and to think about. If that money's appropriated and you say it's going to sit there and I can't spend it on anything, I've been in this town 31 years, I'm not going to spend it on anything. So that's important to know. And oh, the other thing that I wanted to say, so then the following year for FY22, when we go back to get our certification back, we have to go with the TAMI. I have to go with my requirement for FY21, not actually what we were appropriated. So you kind of start digging a hole. But so with the school, have we decided to level fund the school, or we're still talking about that? Because that was one of my questions. I don't understand what's going on with the elementary school.
What the suggestion is for the elementary school is to go back to the FY20 level, then find out what the steps for the teachers or for their staff would be, and we could add that back in, which is the same way we're treating every other department. We are allowing for steps, and then everything else is going back to the FY20. So that's the one thing, Jean, I feel that we're treating the library exactly the way we're treating every other department, even the school. So
Yeah,
that would help you if you had to get the waiver.
Yeah, and that's good, because I did ask that question, and she said that what they're really focusing on is that disproportional cut. So if that is in fact how we do it, and everybody, including the school, goes down to the FY20 level, we still have to fill out everything. That disproportional cut worksheet that you guys will have to help me with. And so she didn't have all the facts, but she's like, that doesn't sound like a disproportionate cut. So that's good. And I just wanted to make sure about that.
Okay.
So that's awesome.
So thank you, Jean and Sandy. So given that, would it make sense then to wait on the library until we've heard back about the schools and kind of leave that as one of the finishing ones that we do, because what we do is going to be dependent on, it sounds like, how the other departments fare.
I think that you could vote the library director's salary, that's just a step. The library wages, the new amount of $168,807 could be voted, because that's payroll and that's what it's going to cost, and it went down. Okay. The line that you might want to hold would be the library expense. You've already voted to level fund it, but that's the line that you may want to go back at. Okay. Because that's where she'd have to build in her extra. Okay. So you could definitely vote the line 125 director salary, and library wages you could lower to 168,807. Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you, Sandy.
So on line 125, I'll entertain a motion, line 125 library director salary for the amount of $68,818.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Line 126 library wages, I'll entertain a motion to approve the amount of $168,807.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Jean, and thank you, Sandy. Moving up
Thank you.
to line 116, Council on Aging wages. We have a notation from Sandy that we could potentially reduce that line to 183,803 for weekend hours. And we had a hold on that line previously. So I'll entertain a motion for line 116, Council on Aging wages in the amount of $183,803.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion or commentary, Sandy, about the note?
Nope.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I did, Susan Wallace did reach out to me as her budget liaison, that the only concern they have about their expense line is for doing in-house printing of the newsletter. So that's just that was the only thing that she mentioned that she'd want us to kind of keep in mind, is that they're no longer using an external publishing and mailing contractor. It'd be all the newsletters would be printed in-house. So that their concern is about the cost of copying and printing in-house. So I did make a note of that. We do have that in correspondence. Okay. Line 112, health inspections. We have a hold on that right now, but I'll entertain a motion to approve health inspections, line 112, at the amount of $75,768.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Line 110, health clerical. I'll entertain a motion to recommend the amount of $44,200. Oh, I'm sorry. The amount of $43,836.
Make a motion to recommend line 110 health clerical in the amount of $43,836.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Again, this has a notation of reduced weekend holiday coverage. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, line 106, recycling center wages. I'll entertain a motion to approve the amount of $70,685, which was requested.
I'll make a motion to recommend.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, line 104, recycling office clerical. We have a notation that we can make a further reduction for coverage not used. So I'll entertain a motion for line 104, recycling office clerical, in the amount of $31,418.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Under public works, water, we only have the various wage lines left. So line 93, water superintendent salary. I'll entertain a motion to approve the amount of $84,541.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, line 94, water wages. Again, all of these, just as a pause here, all of these are including the step increases. So we're trying to get the wage lines with steps in to fit in under the budget. Line 94, water wages, in the amount of $204,966.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Line 95, water clerical. I'll entertain a motion for the requested amount of $44,214.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All All right, line 91, cemetery wages. We have a notation that there may have been a calculation error, so that a level service request here. So I'll entertain a motion for line 91, cemetery wages in the amount of $67,847.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving up to Public Works Highway, line 79, highway clerical. We have a requested amount of $42,926.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, line 78, highway wages. We have a note from Sandy that the requested amount includes an additional position, and then you have a level service amount as well.
Yeah, the level service is 309,732.
So maybe procedurally right now, we should vote the level service line because wage and personnel doesn't have any recommendations for FinCom. So I'll entertain a motion on line 78, highway wages in the level service amount of $309,732.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, in terms of the schools, Sandy and or Charlie, do you want us to just leave those? Do you want us to vote lines back to FY 2020? Because I know we're still waiting on information concerning wages.
That's where I would go, in the sense of, when I wrote to you all about this a couple days ago, I specifically said I was not recommending level funding. That it was simply by putting the FY 20 number in there, it was simply a placeholder for getting the information from the schools and then making the decision, but not a recommendation for level fund. So if you want to treat the same way, that'd be fine by me.
Okay, so right now we have line 75, Silver Lake assessment. We have the notation of
You mean 95?
yeah. Oh yeah, line 95 in the spreadsheet, line 75 of the budget. I did the same thing. So Silver Lake assessment. So Sandy, you have suggested decrease 37,598. So would that come off? That you'd want that off? Oh, I see. Okay, back down to FY 20.
Right, that brings it down to FY 20 level.
Okay.
If you take that amount off, that was the increase.
Okay. So I guess procedurally, we'll do that for now, but understanding that we're gonna have to go back to these anyway. So I would entertain a motion on line 75, Silver Lake assessment, to recommend an amount of $4,594,943.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Making a note there that we're still waiting on information. All right. And then on line 71, elementary school costs, we can also, again, just in the interest of being fair, vote that one back down to FY 20. So I'll entertain a motion on line 71, elementary school costs in the amount of $5,659,147.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're now under public safety, other public safety. So line 69, dispatch services. We had a hold on this. The requested amount was $8,000 over FY20 at $163,000. And if anyone has, because I know I know Chief Shaws was nice enough to have some time to talk to me about a few lines. But if anyone, Sandy or anyone included, wants to talk a little bit about the dispatch services, because that again is sort of it's an external contract that we have that we share.
Charlie, did you find out any other information on that?
Well, unfortunately, I've just not been able to confirm the numbers I want. I know, the basic dispatch number is 150, but we also have software licensing every year that we need to pay for the connections at the fire and police stations, and then also inevitably there's some sort of expense that happens for repairs or something else in the year, which would be the other part. I need to be able to spend the time necessary to work out and confirm with the two chiefs that my figures are going to be right for next year.
Okay, so we can keep our hold on that line just because we're still collecting information. Okay. Line 66, animal control officer salary. We have a requested amount of $19,422. And again, wage and personnel has not made any recommendations at this point.
I'll make that recommendation.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, line 61, building inspector wages. We have a requested amount, and this again just includes a step of $74,768. So I'll entertain a motion for line 61, building inspector wages.
So moved.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we're at public safety fire. So line 53, fire wages. Again, this includes all step increases. We have a requested amount of $1,011,141.
So moved.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Line 52, fire clerical. We have a requested amount of $37,915.
So moved. So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
It's with 287 difference. Yes, that's fine. Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, line 51, fire chief salary. We have a contractual amount of $125,000. It's a level fund.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We're now at public safety police. I know as budget liaison, and also too, if any other FinCom here on their budget liaisons that we kind of put in correspondence,
Melinda, I'm sorry, go back to the police chief salary. Just wanted to confirm with Sandy, we don't
we were
have
at fire chief salary.
Sorry?
We did fire chief salary.
Fire chief, okay, thank you.
So line 47, police clerical, we have a requested amount of $47,375.
Make motion to recommend.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I do have a note on line 45, police wages. So I know, Sandy, that you put in the step increases, but I believe, and Chief Shaws, please correct me if I'm wrong, that we have, we'll have to pay an education stipend to, for an officer for an earned bachelor's degree. I don't know if that was folded into that increase amount.
I know that his step increase was his
Mhm.
normal step increase, but then he notified me last week, just before I talked to you, that he was earning his bachelor's degree in December. So that's going to be an additional, I think $2,900. I think it was. I'd given you the figure.
Okay.
That hasn't. Simpson. $2,900. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief, do you think that that money could be in there with your overtime? You always end up turning back quite a bit of money at the end of the year because the overtime is so unpredictable. Do you think that $2,900 could be taken from that?
I think realistically that yes. Obviously we can't predict the future, but if we had to, I think I'd be pretty confident that it would be able to cover it from the overtime budget.
And I don't know if this line, I don't have the big budget binder in front of me, so I apologize. Does this line, Sandy, do you happen to also encompass the sick buyback that we have to set aside each year?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And are we?
This line encompasses the full-time wages, part-time wages, the overtime, sick buyback, holiday pay, and matrons.
Okay.
So my question, Sandy, is last year's budget, that was one of the lines that we recommended to cut, and we did some discussion that it was contractual, but it was cut, and now this year it's back on. So I just want to make sure that it's staying on, or it's not being cut.
I'm not sure exactly what's not being cut. What was
All right.
cut last year?
Last year, when they started cutting different monies from different budgets, I believe we had, I think, 13,000 set aside for sick buyback, and that was one of the cuts that the police budget sustained, because you had said that that's money that we probably won't be paying because no one's retiring. So I said fine, and then this year it's back on. So I was just making sure that there was not a problem there.
Yeah, no, we didn't cut any of that. This is actually the number I believe that you asked for, and the
Okay.
sick buyback is included in that budget.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So I'll entertain a motion for line 45, police wages, in the amount of $1,157,241.
I'll make that recommendation.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, line 44, police chief salary. Requested amount is $115,614.
So I'll make a motion to recommend $115,614.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I do have notes, and I'll read them in during correspondence from jobs concerning, similar to from Council on Aging and from the library and others, as to places that they'd like us to pay attention to if we're able to add back to expense lines. So I'll have that under correspondence as well. All right, now we're under general government. Line 40, town buildings custodial. So we have a note here from Sandy suggest 199,845. This is level service. So I'm reading the level service except for the additional increase to the director of building is due to the extra responsibilities of the elementary school. Does that, Sandy, that would have to come from wage and personnel first as a recommendation and then come to FinCom, correct?
Yes, so this has not been regraded, but I wanted to make sure there was money in the budget so that the increase would be able to be, so that we'd have the money for the increase. Because if he's going to take on the extra duties, he has to be paid something extra.
Mhm.
I think that the building committee, selectmen, the school committee, even wage and personnel, I think have been all in agreement. We're going to need to bump that amount by more than a few $1,000s. That's just not going to happen.
Do you want us to then hold on that line until we have a better idea of the proposed addition?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll try to remember wage and personnel's meeting on Thursday at noon this time. And that can be part of the discussion then.
All right, so let's leave the hold then on line 40 town buildings custodial since it's wrapped up in wage and personnel as well. So line 38 building committee clerical, we have a requested amount of $11,714.
I'll make a motion to recommend $11,714.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, line 37 regulatory clerical, we have a requested amount of $74,107.
I'll make a motion to recommend.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Line 31, wage and personnel clerical. We could, we have not made an official recommendation out to FinCom yet, but at the last wage and personnel meeting, wage and personnel voted to dissolve the board and to distribute its duties across FinCom and Board of Selectmen and elsewhere. So I think that's why we have that we could remove that line, so we could effectively recommend line 31 wage and personnel clerical for 0.
I'll make a motion to recommend.
Sure, seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so line 30 elections and register. I know we had an email from Barbara concerning the cost of elections. So we voted to recommend the FY20 amount. I don't.
The amount that was originally asked for was $21,980. And I do think she's going to need that money.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, Sandy, what was that number again? 21?
$21,980.
Okay, 21,980.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, Barbara.
Hello.
Thank you for the.
You're welcome. I went over it again today. I understand we need to make cuts, but some of those are out of my hand.
Yeah.
I don't have any clue until I get the bill for them.
No, and
mainly the stuff for the tabulators. They just take the ballots, they print them, the state prints them and sends the cards out to me, and we have to pay for them. So there's no wiggle room whatsoever.
mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for outlining everything in the email for us. So I'll entertain a motion on line 30, elections and register, for the amount of $21,918.
980.
Oh, sorry.
80.
Sorry, 21, I'll entertain a motion for 21,980 for line 30.
I'll make a motion to recommend line 30 election register for 21,980.
Seconded.
All right, any further discussion or any other comments from Barbara or anyone else?
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you again, Barbara. Line 28, town clerk clerical. So we have a new requested amount of 32,182.
I'll make a motion to recommend for town clerk clerical, $32,182.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Line 22, treasurer collector clerical. We have a request, an amended amount of $135,883.
I'll make a motion to recommend for $135,883.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now I know we had a communication from the assessor's office concerning again some externally mandated expenses. I'm gonna find the email unless anyone else gets their hands on it first. Please feel free to tag in. A lot of them are in email threads. There we go. All right, I have an email. Thank you, Cheryl, for acting as liaison from Thursday, April 23rd in the morning concerning the assessor's budget. Outside services contract for the vendor and PK evaluation. So they're concerned about keeping their designations current, and I think this concerns their expense line in terms of external training that they have to maintain designations, and their external contract for the CAMA vendor PK evaluation. So the original request for line 19 assessor's expense. Let me see. Sandy, do you have the original one? Because
Yeah, she was asking for $14,665 because the addition to the PK contract was $1,500. So it would be $14,665.
Okay. So we can talk about that. If I'll entertain a motion for line 19 assessor's expense in the amount of $14,665.
I'll make a motion to recommend $14,665 for line 19 assessor's expense.
Seconded.
Okay. Does anyone have any comments? I mean, this seems to me again like an external.
This is Holly. Excuse me, this is Holly. Can you hear me?
Yep. Thank you so much.
This is external.
Hmm?
This isn't external. It's a contract with PK, and it's a new fiscal 21, mandated by the Department of Revenue to value these 504s differely.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I asked for the 1,500.
Yeah, and I think this is in line with some, like we were talking about some of the other external contracts we have, like dispatch services and others. So we have a motion and a second for line 19 assessor's expense in the amount of $14,665. So all those in favor, any other comments or questions from anyone? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Line 18, assessors clerical. We have a recommended amount here of 64,410. I'll entertain a motion for line 18, assessors clerical in the amount of 64,410.
I'll make a motion to recommend.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, line 17, principal assessor appraiser. We have a recommended amount of $77,817.
Make a motion to recommend.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Line 10, FinCom clerical. We have a recommended or the requested amount of $4,520.
I'll make a motion to recommend.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll come back to line 6 law, but let's handle the last wage line that we have, which is line 4, selectmen clerical. The FY21 requested amount is $83,586.
I will make a motion to recommend $83,586 for selectmen clerical.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, now we do have a couple of things in green across the budget that we need to pay some attention to. So before dealing with the process, I think that may take a little bit of discussion. Let's go back to line 58 for medical supplies, because I know we had updated information from both Chief Viveros and from Sandy concerning that requested amount. So last week we voted to level fund them back to FY20 at $25,000. But I know there's been some concern about whether or not we can, whether or not that's plausible. So Sandy, or if Chief, if you're on, if anyone wants to speak to that particular line, because we have that one highlighted in our spreadsheet.
I don't know if Chief is on, but when I look at that line, I am concerned. He asked for an additional $500 in that line.
Mm-hmm.
That was before all of this COVID-19. And just thinking of the money that they may have to spend on PPE, I think that we should put some extra in that budget. Even if I think more than $500. I think $26,000 would be better.
Okay.
And since he's not here, I don't know.
Well, how about we do this? We can entertain a motion and open up for discussion. So I'll entertain a motion on line 58, fire medical supplies, for a FY21 amount of $26,000.
Make a motion to recommend.
Seconded.
Okay, so we can open up for discussion. I mean, personally, I've seen the increases in this line year over year. So I think you point out something important, Sandy, about PPE and just perhaps a general need for more and different kinds of medical supplies. But does anyone else have any questions or comments on that line 58, fire medical supplies? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Line 6. All right, last week we voted to set it back to FY20 level of $74,100. But this is something we've been having a lot of conversations about because we've had significant requests from the reserve fund to pay law bills because the $74,100 was not sufficient. We had originally voted weeks ago to add, I believe it was $50,000 to the FY20 amount, and even that we weren't sure if that was going to cover. But it's something that we need to have a discussion about, because if we don't pay it out of the law line, it's coming out of the reserve fund line. And I don't have the exact statistic, but I would suspect that the majority, if not the super majority, of what we pay out of the reserve fund has been for law expenses. So I don't know, Charlie or Sandy, if either of you, I know this is difficult because we're trying to not put anything else additional onto lines anywhere unless it's, like we said, external contracts or.
So, I mean, and the fundamental problem is, again, I go back to the work that got done late last week, was to say, we've got this amount of money available without increases in some of the line items that we've already talked about. And all, the ones, obviously, when we've had the discussion, we know we're going to need more money in those lines. It's no different with the law account. If we stay at 70, it's not going to cover the current level of service that we have from our council, and we're going to have to drop back. It's very few hours for each type of work that's being done, whether it's general counsel, labor counsel, land use and such. And then, so I would naturally advocate for additional money in that line. And the problem is, I'm not sure that we've got it. It's certainly higher on my list that if the money becomes available, that once, if we've said to everyone that we've been able to fund a step increase for everyone, that just like with elections, with Medicare and such, we put more money into this line item. We're running, I think, the last couple of years, and this year, probably at 120, 130, not 70. So it's a significant, to get it up to where we've been spending it, it's a very large amount of money given the margins we're talking about right now.
I've been updating the spreadsheet as we go along, and currently leaving the $300 and $3,000 under the levy limit, we have approximately $75,919. Of course, we do not know yet what the school is going to come in with for how much their steps and lanes will cost. But I'm thinking we could use some of this towards the law account.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I don't know about Silver Lake offhand. I don't know what, because there's two things, what the step increase would be, and then divided among the three communities. I know for the schools, I think it's roughly 4.5 is payroll there. So could step increases in such amount to somewhere between 1 and 2, certainly. So we're talking between $45,000 and $90,000, which obviously then eats up the vast amount of. I guess take a flyer and say, put in 20 more in there, knowing that, as with everything else, I mean, we may continue to have to make adjustments on a lot of line items once we know where the schools are, and then later on, in whatever budget we try and put together, even early next month, is in anticipation that on the small chance we'll have a town meeting June 15th, that whatever we're doing is still going to be a draft, much more so than what we've done in previous years, going to press in early April and coming in with a final version in mid-May, or mid to early May. So, I mean, maybe that's the outlook I should take, is that we're doing a draft and that we can put money in here, and knowing that we may need to make a change later on.
So do you think then, Charlie and Sandy, we kind of pause where we are on the operating budget now? Since it seems like the things that we need to fill in the picture, we're still kind of waiting on. And then we might have a little bit more information next week to go back and.
I don't know how much more information we're going to get in the next week. I don't mean that, I'm not thinking that the school isn't interested in doing this. They're getting hit by all sides. I mean, Kingston is very much looking at it not as a policy discussion, but as a money discussion. They're not saying to Kingston's not saying to Silver Lake, we would support a school budget that has this framework. They're saying, this is the amount of money that we can afford. It's up to you to figure out what the framework's going to be. When I wrote to them, I said, certainly money is obviously at the end of it, but what we are saying is we would be more willing to work out some sort of budget that is equitable across departments, including Silver Lake, and to say that if we're going to try and do step increases for Halifax Elementary and for the non-school employees in Halifax, we want to provide the same thing to Silver Lake employees also. Well, let's figure out whether that's possible or not. If it isn't, then we all take a step back and figure out what is possible. Sorry, I'm not sure where I'm going with that.
That's okay. I understand what you're saying, and that like we've taken a position that we want to try to maintain the step increases and essentially treat everyone fairly and try to equalize as much as possible. And we're trying to take that into account on our end, whereas you're saying that from other sides, they're just sort of getting a number and being told to work within it. So. I mean, I guess given that.
I mean, that's in the two school line items are, they're a huge part of the budget. I mean, they're what, 40%, not including Voc and the special ed and everything else, but just the general program at Halifax Elementary, and then our assessment for Silver Lake, if it's 40%, maybe 35%, and we've got the debt exclusion and everything. But.
I'm trying to think. So do you want us to deal with the articles? We can deal with the FY21 articles, I guess, tonight as well. I know that some of them we haven't made recommendations on.
Are you asking me or are you asking the group?
You and the group. I mean, I'm trying to think of like what else we can accomplish tonight, given that some other parts are in a holding pattern.
Well, I think the articles are really a separate source of funding. I think the only concern I have is, and I think I need to talk to the selectmen about this tomorrow, is that we may need a different orientation on some of the articles, not the ones that are there, but whether we need to produce new articles given the situation we're dealing with. I still have I've talked very loosely about doing e-permitting, about document retrieval, about doing more electronic payroll, all of which would be one way or the other capital expenses. And then we've got COVID in general, and whether we need to, we've been allowed through the declarations of emergencies to spend money on COVID without an appropriation. One way or the other, that bill will become due. I mean, not in the sense that we haven't paid it, but the Department of Revenue will require us to, one way or the other, cover the expenses. And it may be better off right now not to tell departments that you're saying yes to various articles right now, because if we relook at the budget during the next few weeks, we may say the priorities we had, let's say in January or in March, early March that is, are not the priorities we have right now. And that we may need to refigure where the money, that's under, that we're using the free cash and such, the money we're using is going to go to.
Okay.
But
Okay,
Phoebe's handled most of the articles via the capital budget, so she may have better information than I do.
Yeah. I mean, absent that, looking at the agenda, so wage and personnel has not made any recommendations out to FinCom yet. We're going to handle, the last thing we have to handle for the FY21 proposed amendments are the new positions or requests for like reclassifications and such, and those we should be doing on Thursday. Reserve fund transfers, I don't think we've received any requests for those.
We did not.
Thank you, Linda. Acceptance of minutes. So thank you again to Linda for typing those up for us. The minutes were an email dated Friday, April 24th at 12:11 p.m. So these are for Monday, April 20th, 2020. The members present: Melinda Tarsi, Bill McAvoy, Fred McGovern, Cheryl Zarella Burke, and Drew McClincy. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes for April 20th.
Make a motion to recommend.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you again, Linda, for doing those. Correspondence, I believe during the budget discussion, we mentioned all of the folks who had sent us emails, all of the department heads that had sent in comments. I also heard back from Scott concerning his as well. But if there, I don't know if we've received any other correspondence from anyone else.
No, everything that you went through while you were discussing was the budget was all that we received.
All right, thank you, Linda. Public participation. Thank you for everyone who's logging in. Does anyone have any questions or comments for the Finance Committee? Okay, under calendar, I don't believe we've set May meeting times or meeting dates. So if everyone has a chance to pull up a calendar, we can take a look at those. This is the last meeting of April, the 27th. So the easiest thing might be to just hold the next Monday, the Mondays of May, the 4th, 11th, and 18th.
I have a conflict on the 4th. Other than that, I'm fine.
Okay. So we'd have one person who wouldn't be here on the 4th. Would everybody else be able to be present on the 4th so we could have quorum?
Could be.
Cheryl? Okay,
Yeah, I should be
will
here.
you be there? Drew, would you be able to be there on May 4th?
Yeah, I can make May 4th.
Okay. All right, so why don't we do that then? Let's just hold, Linda, if you wouldn't mind, we'll hold Monday, May 4th, Monday, May 11th, and Monday, May 18th at 6 p.m. For Finance Committee meetings.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything under as may arise?
Melinda? Just the Halifax Elementary Schools meeting May 11th to talk about the budget. So we probably won't have anything back to you guys until late that night.
Okay. Thank you. So we can work with that then on May 18th, the following Monday. Excellent. Anything else under as may arise? Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:24 p.m.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you again so much, everyone, for everything that you're doing, and please be safe.
Thanks, you too.
Night.
Good night.